Hi everyone, hope you're all well on this, if you're watching live on this Sunday afternoon. I will just check to see if the technology is working at my end, and if you are live, could you please make a comment and say hi and that you can hear me, please. That would be great. Okay, so just let me check on my computer to make sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I'll check the... you'll just hear an echo for a second while I just check the sound. Yep, all good. Okay. So how is everybody? Whether you're watching live or later on in a replay, please say hi and tell me how you are. It's another beautiful sunny day here. It's cold, but it's sunny and there's no wind, so that's a bonus. I've got my heater on in the craft room. Yeah, all is well. I hope you're all doing well and I hope you enjoy the class. I will, if you haven't watched my online classes before, in case there might be one or two of you who haven't, I'll do a separate video for each card. That way the live on Facebook, each one's not going for too long. And we can have like a 5-minute break between each card, which is nice. So if you miss anything that I say, any instructions or anything like that, please put a comment up. I do find it a bit hard to keep a constant eye on comments, but I'll try to check them every now and again. And that sheet that I uploaded to this Facebook group has all the measurements on it. So if you've got that with you, you can refer to it in case you miss any measurements that I say. Hi, Marilyn. I'm glad you could join us. That's great. Alrighty, well, what's the time? It's 5 past. So I think that's probably enough time for anyone who could make it live to join in. And so I'll put my phone in the holder and flip it around and we'll get started. So just sorry about the jiggling is what I was going to say. Okay, hold please. Okay, and you can hear me all right, Marilyn, can't you? I presume, because I've got all my devices muted so that there's no echoing happening, because I record on my phone and then have it playing on my computer so that I can check messages and things. Now just let me move that slightly to make sure everything's in shot okay. That's obviously the card we're going to start with today, which is I've called the Embossed Daisy in your kit. So if you get out, I'm not sure if I wrote on what each one was called or not on your individual kits, but if not, just get the one out that's got a piece of yellow and the piece of this designer series paper in it, and you'll know that you have the right one. Now in my original one that you can see here, I did use a retired embossing folder, so you can use whatever embossing folder you like. I wanted a sort of flowery, swirly type one, but for the card that I'm going to make on the video, I'm going to use one of the They're called, it's a set of 3 embossing folders. It comes in a set of 3 and they're called Basics 3D embossing folders. And I'm going to be using the sort of, it's kind of a florally pattern. It could be a star or, yeah, but it's kind of a florally pattern. So I hope you can see that one there. That's the one I'm going to be using, but you use whichever embossing folder you like. So that's the one I'm going to be using for that. And there's 2 lots of embossing on this card. We've got, I gave you in your kit a white piece to also do some embossing on. It's just, if you can see, if I give you a close-up of that card, it's just underneath the designer series paper. So in between the yellow embossed piece and the DSP. And for that one, I used the wood grain, timber. It's called Timber 3D embossing folder for that one. So if you don't have that embossing folder, I wanted something really subtle. So if you've got another kind of subtle pattern for that piece, that would be suitable as well. So that's the 2 folders I'm going to be using. But before we get embossing and all that kind of thing, I will just give you some measurements because I'm pretty sure I did not cut your DSP and your cardstock to size. So the yellow piece is Lemon Lolly. That's one of the new colours. And I didn't cut that piece down at all. You'll want that full card front size. So you don't need to cut that one. Your white piece, just bear in mind that, I'm just checking my notes, but the piece that I gave you is probably, I'm pretty sure I didn't cut it down, but it should be big enough to cut down not only to the size for your embossed piece, your white embossed piece, but also so that you can stamp a small greeting for the center there. So when I give you the measurements to cut it, when you start cutting it, bear in mind that you'll need some of that for your greeting as well. I didn't want a particularly large greeting there. So if you've got a greeting that you could use that's not too big, that would be great. As you know, this is the Daisy class. So for everything in this class, I'm using the Cheerful Daisies bundle, the stamps and the dies and the DSP. So that's what we're using for everything. Okay, so let's get all our cutting done first. So let's just, even though I've already cut my piece down to size, you will need to cut your white piece to be 7.5 on the short side and 10.85. I know we don't have 0.5 millimeter measurements on our trimmers, but I just guess it in between 2 of the millimeter measurements. So 10.85 that way. And I'll tell you again, 7.5 or 7.5 that way. Okay, so that gives you a piece of white that size, and then your DSP is exactly the same size. Okay, so you should have end up with 2 pieces the same size, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, and 10.85. Alrighty, so get those cut. And we'll do the the embossing now. So also get out your lemon lolly piece and decide which embossing folder you're going to use for that. So as I mentioned, I'm going to use this one. So now don't forget, if you're using a 3D embossing folder, so I'm just going to bring my machine in to show you. It might be a little bit big. I don't have my mini one. I'm using my big one today because the mini doesn't fit the embossing folders. It's great for die cutting, but it doesn't fit the embossing folders. So with your 3D folders, you don't need this number 2 die cutting shim. You just need your base plate, and the instructions are on here, so it's really, really helpful whether you've got a 3D folder or a normal folder. But you need your base plate, you need your, then you put your embossing folder and cardstock in, and then you put this number 4 plate on top of that and run that all through. I will actually move it to run it through so it doesn't jiggle the camera. So you can do that now. Run that through. Okay, and that's what I ended up with there. Okay, so you can see that sort of flowery kind of star pattern. And now we will do the white piece as well while we're got that out. So obviously if your embossing folders aren't 3D, you would have the embossing folder sandwiched between your 2 clear plates. Or if you've got a different brand machine, whatever your machine tells you to do. Okay, so that's all the embossing done. And that's what my piece looks like there. Okay. So we can start sticking all this on. Now on you'll notice that the leaves that I put in your kit, if you haven't already found out, they are very, very fragile. So just be really careful how you handle those. And one of the when you cut the DSP down, you would have ended up with some leftovers, obviously. So you can use, don't throw away your scraps, obviously. You can use a strip to put on the inside of your card like I have done there. And just bear with me for a second. Okay. All right, so this one going down first. Yep, that's the same size as my card front. Fantastic. So I do usually use, oh, not quite that much. I was going to say I usually use a bit more glue than normal when I'm gluing embossing folders, because of the rigid lines, but I didn't want the rigid pattern. I just didn't want quite that much, so let's spread that out a bit. I think that bottle of glue that I used first was just about empty, so I've just grabbed a new one. Okay. I'll just be careful when I glue that down because I had so much on it. I don't want it to ooze out, so I'll just gently, won't squish that down too much. So let me know in the comments what kind of embossing folder you used, and whenever when the class is finished, the whole class, it'd be really great if you could put photos up of your cards, but rather than putting them in this class group, if you wouldn't mind putting it in my Stampin' with Linny public group, the normal group that I post in every day, only because sorry, I was just thinking about something then. That way other people will get to enjoy it as well, enjoy the cards as well. But whereas this class group is just for those of you who are doing the class. All right, so now we're going to stick our two other pieces down, and I put, because they're the same size, I put the white one at an angle, obviously, so you can see it. So I just eyeball the top and the bottom there to get that gap about right, and then I won't take it right to the edge of the card. I'll just leave a little bit of a gap, and you can put your other piece on top of that and decide for yourself how much you want of that sticking out. But it's a shame not to be able to see as much of it as possible. Oh, which side will I use? Oh, I think I might use that side. So okay, so once again, just sorry about holding that up. I just don't want to get my head in the camera, so I just need to angle it towards me so I can see what I'm doing. And obviously, because it's on a diagonal, it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's give that a good press down, and then we will stick the DSP straight on top of it. So this card comes together quite quickly until we get to all those beautiful, delicate leaves. And if you are, I'll give you some tips about if you have this suite of products yourself and you're cutting out those leaves in the future. So obviously I'm putting that on straight. Okay, might not look straight because it's got the angled piece underneath it, but that is pretty straight. Yes, I'll give you some tips about cutting these leaves out. So when, I'll actually get all the dies and show you anyway. So these are all the dies that come in that bundle. So this is the leaf one. And when you are, just get a piece of cardstock and show you. When you're running that through your machine, I put some tape, excuse me for a sec, I taped it down, and I have found that with anything that's any die that's detailed, I find it better to, so just pretend this is my die cutting machine. So I've just got the 2 clear plates here. So instead of cutting it out like that, how we normally would, I actually flip my plates over like that, which means it's actually, the blades are closer to the surface of where it rolls through the machine, closer to the roller at the top, so you get a better cut, and I find you get a better result with any of the detailed dies that way. Okay, so that's my tip for those ones. And the other die we'll be using just for this card will be, I'm going to be using this label die because it matches the stamps, the greetings in that set. So I'll get that one out ready. And we'll get stamping and die cutting, or you might prefer to punch, whatever you prefer to do is all good. So I'm stamping in Moody Mauve because that's the colour that's in this paper. And even though my original one said wishing you the brightest birthday, this time I'm going to say, oops a daisy, so sorry, because I have a friend whose birthday I didn't forget, but I did forget to get her card in the mail in time. So I thought, well, let's just use one of these and just give that a bit of a quick clean. When I use my chamois, I always stamp it off on scrap paper first, just so that my chamois doesn't get too stained. Doesn't matter if it gets stained apparently, but I hate it, so I hate the look of it. So all right, so I'm going to just pop to the side, and of my die cutting machine's just next to me, so I'm going to get that, run that through, and that one, yes, that's my, I always keep one plate for cutting, and I'll try and keep the same, plates for cutting and the same one for the top. And I just find that way I've always got one plate that's in really good nick. Okay, and don't forget when you're running things through your machine too. So for example, this die's got a straight edge on it. So instead of just running it through straight like that, I would angle it a little bit and run it through like that. And the reason for that is it puts less pressure on your machine. So it's not going across, it's not going across a big speed hump all at once. It's only going across a bit at a time, if you know what I mean. And then you don't get that really big bump as you roll it through your machine, you'll notice. Okay. And this one's got a nice stitched edge around it too, so that's lovely. Okay. So now comes the tricky part. So you can use as many of these leaves as you like. I'm actually going to use all of them. In your kit, I would have given you 2 of each colour. But if you want to use less, that is entirely up to you. I am going to use all of them. In no particular order, I'm going to put some tear and tape on the back of my greeting. My tear and tape is right here because I had it handy for class. There we go. But so is everything else right here. If you could see outside the camera view, you would see a big mess. And I'm going to cover a lot of that, there's a lot of that, the back of the greeting, because there are a lot of die cuts to stick behind there. You will find that after you've stuck the first lot down, you might find the last couple of leaves don't stick, so I just put another layer of tear and tape on. And I'm just going to get my silicone mat just to make it a bit easier for me to... What I'm going to do is, with my die upside down, I'm going to, because so it doesn't have any sticky on it, I'm going to assemble my leaves the way I want them to be. So just, sorry, is that in camera properly? Maybe not. So just eyeball it, fiddle with it gently. So I wanted my leaves, my colours to be same colours, almost opposite each other. Let's see how that looks. Yep, look, it's just a random pattern of leaves, so I'm happy with that. So now I can just turn that over and stick it down. Now, as I say, I might get my tweezers at this stage so that I'm being a bit more gentle as I'm handling that. The tweezers are... Now, I didn't think they would all stick, but they have. If yours haven't, my first time I did this on my sample card, they didn't all stick. So just put another run of tear and tape over the top of that, and just very carefully, obviously, when you pick the backing off, just be careful with that. I am going to be putting dimensionals on the back of that anyway, so I think they are all stuck well enough that it should be fine. So let me just bring my card back in and see, just place that there and see how that looks. Yep, I'm happy with that. Don't stick it down yet because we've got another couple of layers to go underneath, but I just wanted to get that done and set aside. Now, if I stuck that down like that, to me, the floral paper directly underneath those beautiful delicate leaves, to me the leaves just get lost. So you'll notice in your kit that I gave you a sheet of vellum, and I have actually already die cut a circle, a scallop circle out of the vellum. If you want to do a punch, you can do that. It doesn't have to be a circle, but you want it to be big enough so that when you lay it down, you might not be able to see that terribly well, but when you lay it down and put that over the top, you want it big enough that it's going to poke out underneath quite a bit so that it really gives your leaves a bit more definition by the time you put that up on dimensionals. So cut your vellum out, as I say, with whatever you want, and then even though vellum is you know, you can see adhesive through vellum. I'm just going to put a piece of tear and tape right in the middle because I know the middle is going to be covered. So we'll get that down. And you can just stick that right in the centre of your DSP, which is about there. And now we'll get some dimensionals. I'm going to lose that die if I don't put it away, so excuse me for a sec, and that one as well. Okay. And if you've still got some adhesive showing, if you had to put some extra tear and tape on the back of your leaves there on top, just make sure that your dimensionals go over the top of any exposed adhesive from your tear and tape, because otherwise you don't want your tear and tape that is sticky sticking flat to this, because you want it all popped up on dimensionals. So who else have we got there? I can see that now for some reason, Marilyn, your comment hasn't come up, which is a bit weird because I saw it came up initially. I was just looking to see if anyone else had commented. All right, let's get that down. Roughly in the centre and roughly straight. Oops, not roughly straight. No, oh, see what I did there? Just that last dimensional, he's not quite stuck down, that's better. There we go. Lovely. Oh, and guess what I forgot? I forgot to put that underneath it. I told you there was a couple of more layers to do that. So that piece of ribbon that I included in your kit, if you haven't stuck yours down yet, get that under there. I'll show you where I put mine on the sample. So you can see I've just looped it around once and then had the tail sticking out there, so you don't have to tie a bow if you don't want to. You don't even have to loop it around a couple of times. I just did that and I literally laid it down, and the dimensionals stuck it down. So seeing as I didn't I don't know whether I really want, I don't really want a bow. What can I do with that? Can I slip it under the leaves maybe? I might be able to make this work, you know. Bit of fiddling and diddling, but it's got to go in between the leaves and the vellum, which is actually not very easy. So I will, oh, there we go. And then the bling that I gave you in your kit, you can put that wherever you want. Yeah, I think I might, rather than trying to fiddle with that on camera and rushing it, I'll probably break some of those leaves, so I'll need to be careful with that. So I'll get the bling out that I used. I used the in colour, the new in colour dots for that one. Okay. Just bear with me for a second. Now that I've refreshed my page, I've got a message from Kerry. How do I get onto the class? Okay. Oh, thank you, Marilyn. You've sent Kerry a link. Thank you so much. And that was about half an hour ago, so obviously I missed that one. Sorry about that, Kerry. I hope you... So post me a link in the comment, Kerry, if you can, if you're now watching. Okay. So obviously my technology wasn't working as I expected it to be, because I should have been able to read comments all the way through that. So yes, these are the 2023 to 25 in coloured dots that came out with this calendar. Oh dear, I'm losing my words today. Catalogue. And I just used, I think, just 3 of them in a couple of different sizes. So I think I'll put one there, a smaller one just there on the vellum, just on the edge of the vellum there. And then I'll get another of the slightly larger ones and pop it down here, I think. Yeah. And that's it for that card. So nice and easy, apart from the fiddliness of the leaves. The rest of it really straightforward and goes together quite quickly. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I will, and there's my other samples so you can see them both. I actually think I prefer this embossing folder, the bigger swirly design. But yeah. All right, so we'll take a break, 5 minutes. So it's now 2:39. Well, let's say 2:40, and so we'll be back here at 2:45 for the next class. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.